I almost didn't make any photographs this week. I didn't have my usual amount of time, and I really wasn't sure I trusted where my head was. I was tired, distracted, and carrying a lot that hadn't settled yet. Annie, our 4-year-old Labrador retriever, has been very sick, needing our attention around the clock, and it didn't feel like the right conditions for being creative. But experience has taught me that avoiding the work doesn't necessarily make those conditions go away. So as Annie improved, time became available, I grabbed my camera without expecting much. Not because I expected to make strong photographs, but because I've learned that waiting to feel better usually means waiting too long and missing opportunities. That said, I've also found that getting out for fresh air always improves my mental state. So off I went. Let me show you my first image. I didn't have a specific idea in mind here. I wasn't trying to say anything, let alone something important. I stopped because the road slowed me down. It bent away before I could see where it goes, and that felt familiar to me this week, with so many unanswered questions. I didn't try to resolve it, I just let it be what it was. The next photograph came a little later on the same day, under similar thoughts and feelings. What caught my attention wasn't the hill itself, but the way the edge of snow held its line as the road climbed. Everything else felt heavy that day. I didn't try to correct that feeling. I didn't try to make the image feel lighter or more optimistic. I let it carry the weight that was already pressing down on me. That's an important point. We often think we need to fix our mood before we make photographs, or that we need to rise above our troubles somehow. But sometimes the most honest thing we can do is allow the emotion to stay present and learn what it does to our way of seeing the moment. By the time I made this photograph, I had slowed down, breathing a little deeper. Not so much because I felt better, but because I had stopped arguing with how I felt. The light wasn't dramatic. The subject wasn't extraordinary. I accepted both as they were. Sometimes there isn't another choice. And so it was. What mattered is that I stayed long enough to notice where I was standing and why I hadn't moved on. This image came from looking up and realizing that the sky matched my internal weather pretty closely. At the time, I didn't think of that as a problem. I didn't think of it as something to overcome. I wondered instead whether that alignment was actually useful. I wondered if seeing the world clearly sometimes means allowing it to mirror how we feel rather than trying to push past it. So, I let the match happen. This is one of my quieter images from the week. I remember standing there longer than necessary, not because I was refining my composition or struggling with my camera settings, but because I wasn't in a hurry to leave. I was feeling the moment, being absorbed into the frame. When we feel unsettled, staying put can be a form of unintentional attention. As I moved through the rest of the photographs, I became aware of something happening. Each image felt like it was carrying a small part of the same weight, but in slightly different ways. In this one, what stayed with me was the sense of distance, not isolation exactly, but space. Enough room to stand inside the feeling without being overwhelmed by it. Here, I noticed how the landscape seemed to hold together, even under a heavy sky. That steadiness mattered to me. It suggested that not everything needs to move fast in order to keep moving forward. This image felt quieter still, almost like a pause. I didn't read it as emptiness. I read it as breathing room, which was something I hadn't realized I needed until I saw it. By the time I made this photograph, I wasn't trying to work anything out anymore. I wasn't trying to feel better. I was simply responding to what was in front of me. Looking at all 10 together, I realized the photographs weren't solving anything. They weren't meant to. The emerging images were just keeping me company while I figured out what I was feeling and thinking. These images aren't dramatic. They weren't trying to prove anything. They are not going to win any photo contests, but they shared a common tone. And that tone didn't come from planning my day or my photography. It came from allowing myself to work freely without correcting my emotional state first. Each image opened me a little more, if not to acceptance, then to understanding and permission to process my feelings. That's really what I want to leave you with. We don't need to feel confident to make photographs. We don't always need to feel resolved. We don't need to turn a difficult week into a meaningful statement. Sometimes our photography just needs us to show up so we can look it over and let whatever is already there shape the photographs and our thoughts. That's enough, and that's okay. Thanks for letting me share a personal moment with you. I'll see you next time.